You may want to say something about the large fleet of ships that's heading over to the Middle East.
Well, Mr. President, you had to, like so many other cabinet members have referenced, rebuild the perception of America. And at the Department of War, that meant reestablishing deterrence. What happened in Afghanistan, what happened in Ukraine, a war that never would have occurred, what happened on October 7th in Israel, never would have happened under President Trump. So as a result, we're having to rebuild how our enemies perceive us. And when President Trump said, we're not getting a nuclear, Iran, you won't have a nuclear bomb, he meant it. And we sent those B-2s halfway around the world, and they never noticed. When he said, we're not going to tolerate trafficking drugs anymore in our hemisphere, we treat them like the Al-Qaeda of the Western Hemisphere, he meant it, and we're executing that. When you said, Mr. President, we're securing the border, the military was proud to do their part alongside Homeland Security to do that. Same thing with Iran right now, ensuring that they have all the options to make a deal. They should not pursue nuclear capabilities, and we will be prepared to deliver whatever this president expects of the War Department.
That have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
Iran may be behaving badly. It hasn't been confirmed, but if it's confirmed, look, they know the consequences.
With respect to Venezuela, I want to just thank General Kane and his staff. The job that they've done is incredible. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. You may want to say something about the law.
On a path whose predictable conclusion is more violence, more terror, and the very real threat of Iran's nuclear breakout. The deal lifted crippling economic sanctions.
با یه چنین دولتی مذاکره نباید کرد. مذاکره کردن عاقلانه نیست، هوشمندانه نیست، شرافتمند رو بخوام بگم. یکی از 10 کار به این گفتگوها هم نه به صورت افراطی خوشبین باشیم، نه به صورت افراطی بدبین باشیم.
President Trump is considering strikes on Iran's leadership, government institutions, and nuclear sites. That's according to people familiar with the matter. Preliminary discussions with Tehran over limiting its nuclear program and ballistic missile production didn't make any progress. Sources say the president believes his military options have expanded now that the USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group is in the region. President Trump has repeatedly threatened military action in response to Iran's crackdown on nationwide protests. A key advisor to Iran's supreme leader is vowing to respond, naming Tel Aviv as a target if the U.S. attacks. Tehran also says it's added 1,000 drones to its military stockpile. The European Union, meantime, now labels Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist organization. It's the latest move by Western countries to try and put pressure on Iran over its brutal crackdown on protesters. France had initially been against the move, fearing it would damage diplomatic ties with Tehran. EU officials in Brussels also approved new sanctions against Iran.
In Iran, horrific crackdown on protesters has come at a heavy human cost. The EU already has sweeping sanctions in place, and today ministers agreed to designate Iran Revolutionary Guard as a terrorist organization. This will put them on the same footing with Daesh, Hamas, Hezbollah, Al-Qaeda. Those who operate through terror must be treated as terrorists.
CNN's Fred Pleiken is reporting from inside Tehran this week, operating only with the permission of the government. He visited the site where the protests began, eventually spreading nationwide. Now, Fred spoke with some Iranians about their grievances and the government's crackdown on protesters that has killed thousands of people and arrested thousands more. To protect identities, we blurred the faces in this report.
We're in the area around Tehran's Grand Bazaar. This is where the protests started several weeks ago that then, of course, spread throughout the entire country, then ultimately leading to that crackdown where even the government acknowledges that thousands of people were killed. We spoke to some folks around here, and at least some of them said the despair continues, and they said they have very little trust that the government will be able to resolve the issues.
In general, the situation is volatile in a way that the prices are crazy high. And for instance, just yesterday, there was a 20 to 30% hike in prices.
Are you confident that the government can solve the economic issues?
Definitely not. We're certainly sure the government cannot solve it. This is something that I can say for sure. Maybe it is dangerous. I feel this is the end of everything.
How deep is the trauma after the crackdown on the protests?
In this situation, no one is able to do anything because you either have to go to the streets and be killed by weapons or stay at home and die of hunger.
When the protests first started here at the bazaar in late December, it was especially the carpet sellers and jewelers who first walked out. Now, we did speak to some people here who claim that the situation is now under control.
Of course the Islamic Republic can solve the problem. Actually, it's done so. 99% of it is resolved.
All this comes as President Trump continues to weigh his military options here in this region. Iran's leadership has said that any attack on Iran will be met with very strong resistance. But they've also said they're willing to negotiate, however not under duress. TAIPEI, CNN, Tehran.
برو جلو رضا برو جلو
大家好，我是主播周玉琴。很多的朋友告诉我们，选择原版的太阳星全效克菲尔益生菌，它添加有羽衣甘蓝，健康再加分。而有睡眠困扰的朋友们，赶快选择蓝色包装这一款晚安加强版，绝对是更有感。每日克菲尔，时刻美好 ，Good Feel Good， 请上快点购为健康下单，而且要记得输入推荐代码，有额外的折扣优惠。太阳星全效克菲尔益生菌基础版、晚安加强版，新包装改版，内容不变，抽取更方便。要吃就吃最好的。